Webinar. Again, thank you for joining us. We see a crowd from around the world, and we're even more excited to talk about using web to power your business. This is a new release for us at CometChat. We've had Webhooks for a little while, but we have two new we'd like to tell you about today, specifically our presence receipts webhooks. And those join our before and after message webhooks, which really create a powerful and flexible platform to help you solve business challenges sort of regardless of what they are. So let's get into it. My name is Ryan Graff. I'm Director of Marketing here at CometChat. Joined today on the call by Scott Lamadou. He's our Director of Product. A little bit about me. I've worked at the intersection of product and marketing for about a decade. I've built and marketed products for developers who work media, mobile apps, and have been part of the government and civic technology communities. And at CometChat, I'm focused on understanding our customers, how they use chat, and the value that our communication platform provides for them. Scott is an experienced engineer and technologist and product leader. His career spans strategy, product management, architecture, engineering, and new product introductions. As a product leader with roles at organizations of all sizes, from startups to enterprise, Scott has worked across the world in Canada, Europe, the US, India, and has managed teams in each of those areas. Currently, he's our head of product and development organization, delivering the best-in-class app, the best-in-class in-app text, voice, and video platform. We've got a great agenda for today. First, we will talk about, we want to focus on the new web, of course, the presence of webhooks. We'll also do a quick intro to CometChat, what we provide, as well as an introduction to webhooks in general. And then we'll have Scott dive deep into how you should implement either our new webhooks or the existing webhooks. So to kick things off here, just quickly about CometChat. We offer people a sensible platform for in-app communications, whether it's calling, whether it's messaging, group chat, etc. CometChat helps you get there relatively easily. Of course, direct messaging is private one-on-one user-to-user conversations. Group chat can be public, private, password protected. It can be groups that you would see a normal messaging platform, or it can be associated with a live event. And then, of course, voice and video calling is pretty straightforward. See at the bottom of the screen there a few of our features. It's not a comprehensive list, but those are some of the more popular features that our customers use when they're engaged with CometChat. CometChat is a pretty exciting in-app chat provider. We really pride ourselves on being able to meet our customers no matter where they are. And you can see on the screen there sort of the different buckets that customers fall into. We have a few customers, of course, who are just interested in checking the box. They have some sense that they need chat on their platform that'll help drive their business. They're not really thinking deeply about it. More of like we probably need this, let's get it on. And of course, with that, for those folks, we offer a modern, familiar messaging interface, a robust infrastructure, and of course, the ability to DMs, group chat, live chat, etc., as well as all the user interface and user experience features that you'd expect, like avatars, GIFs, stickers, etc. The next group of our customers, sort of a little bit more strategic about how they're thinking about chat. They're really seeking to drive engagement and retention. And for those folks, we offer a great set of features, including push notifications, SMS and email notifications, a little bit more on the engagement side of things. So mentions, polls, reactions, reminders, and more for those their users who use chat. And of course, voice and video calling, as I said. But we're really focused on those chat users or those customers with strategic challenges that they're facing and who recognize that chat can help them reach those challenges. And of course, this customer set is fairly interested in what we're talking about today, which is webhooks and really using chat in unique ways to solve complicated business challenges. So want to integrate chat with other systems. They want to leverage data, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, other technologies to drive their business forward. And of course, they can make chat more personalized. They can improve the interaction quality. They can improve the speed of service, etc. So these are really folks who are thinking critically about chat and have specific problems they're looking to address, recognize that chat can help them do that. And of course, we've got a long roster of customers. You see a lot of familiar brands up there, from Fidelity to Cisco, Oracle, Salesforce, etc. which are known around the world. But if you are in, depending on the region that you're in, recognize a lot of these other brands too, that are really strong regionally in their markets. So with that out of the way, I'll pass it over to Scott to go over what is a webhook.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so pardon the background noise. I'm at a conference right now and found the quietest spot I could to join you all. So bear with me. Yeah, so let's talk about, as you mentioned earlier, customers who are sort of moving from what you might say left to right on that evolution of how chat integrates into their applications may want to take advantage of webhooks. You say, well, what is that? What is it? And what does it do for me? And so webhooks are a way to communicate between two APIs. So as you see here, the definition we have, pretty standard definition, HTTP-based callback function, allowing lightweight event-driven communication between two APIs. And the really important thing there being that it's communication between two different systems or APIs. And so there isn't really a standard or a definition, throughout the life of the technologist's life. I've been doing this for just about 25 years now. There are all kinds of ways to do these kinds of things. As we've gone to a cloud distributed system, globally oriented, we want to have loosely connected systems, and webhooks has become a really awesome way to power the types of systems like CometChat in coordination with other parts of your ecosystem of your application and user experience.
Yeah. Sorry, Scott, just to interrupt. I have sort of provided a little bit of color on the slide here just so it makes sense what you're going through.
Yeah.
So for those who are readers, feel free to read it.
Yeah. So so from CometChat, we will automate the sending of these webhooks. So when events occur, as you can see, it says event driven. So basically any kinds of activities that occur in our system that you may be interested in, you subscribe to those events through a webhook, and then our system will send over the event to your system. It could be some custom code you wrote or another third-party system that supports inbound APIs. And so you can send messages between these systems. So when events occur in CometChat, you can be notified of those. So this is not something right now, if you're attempting to use the APIs of CometChat to automate your system more or to provide a more robust experience. If you're using some of these events or want to know about some of these events, you'll be required to long poll or pull our API. So you'd have to call the API and then see what was different from the last time you called the API, and then understand that an event had occurred, a new user, a new message, etc. So what we do is we take the polling out of that by doing these event-driven webhooks and allowing you to receive a webhook call. This, again, avoids you having to do the polling. It makes it so that you get timely events. So this is way more real time. So as you can imagine with long polling, you're going to make that call every so often. And for performance reasons, you probably don't want to make it too often. So there'll be a delay between the time you polled last and the time you poll again. And so with webhooks, we send you a notification through these webhooks immediately when some activity occurs in the system. So we avoid that lag as well. So a really powerful, proactive, event-driven message API between two systems. So I think we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, so what's really exciting about the call today is we've had webhooks for a while. It's an underpinning of our system. In another conversation, we can discuss extensions. Our extensions are actually built on our webhooks, and we've had a couple of webhooks for a while, but we've recently added 2 new webhooks, presence webhooks, and this is receiving a webhook event or notification when users log in or log off of the CometChat system, and also when they may add a device. So you may see that users actually will log in from a desktop device and then also from their mobile device. And you would see both of those devices as webhook events, each of those connection events and disconnection events from those devices. And then we've also added the receipts webhooks. I think this really, we could think of it as a plural webhooks. So this is receiving a webhook when the users receive a message and when they read a message. So this allows you to have a much more integrated system in terms of the content that's being delivered into your system. You can also see things like uptake and usage of the system in this way. Certainly, if you've got a smaller chat system, if you're not heavily leveraging chat, or I got a
Sorry, I was on mute there. Looks like we lost Scott. He'll be back momentarily, I'm sure. As he mentioned, webhooks have been foundational for what we do at CometChat since the beginning. And so these two new ones that Scott was in the midst of discussing, the presence webhook and the receipts webhook, are new, but of course, we've got these before and after message webhooks that we've had for quite a while. Scott, I was just filling in. Feel free to
I
jump
appreciate
in.
that. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what happened to my connection, but it seems to be restored. So,
Great.
so thanks for carrying on without me. Yeah, so receipts webhooks, presence webhooks, and as Ryan was covering, we've had before and after message webhooks for quite some time. And again, you can, I'll show you in a moment how we can also make use of those.
So one of the things that we wanted to discuss today is sort of help get the wheels turning. For me personally, when I hear the name or the phrase webhooks and even understand a little bit about how webhooks work, it doesn't really make me understand sort of what they're capable of, what they would enable one of our customers to do. And so we've been lucky enough to work with Shadi.com, which is the leading matrimonial site in India. It's basically a dating site. To sort of build out our webhooks, and they've got a few interesting use cases around how they're using webhooks. So Shadi came to us. First of all, they had an in-house built chat function. They thought this is really taking a lot of effort to maintain and upgrade, and so maybe it's better if we outsource it, and CometChat was a natural partner for them. So that's the first aspect of it. But then they sort of moved right into sort of that tackling difficult business challenges via chat that we discussed earlier. And they thought we can improve match quality action via some sophisticated chat integrations. And so they really thought, like, if we can get people who are both online at the same time chatting and prioritize those matches, the interactions overall will be better. People will have a stronger connection with each other, and ultimately they'll be more successful in why they're on a matrimonial site to begin with, as well as just an overall positive user experience. So we worked with them to develop the presence webhook, which of course is now available to all of you, to help them prioritize matches between users who are online simultaneously. So I might be a Shadi user. I log on. Shadi knows that I've got 10 potentially great matches in their queue, and they prioritize any of those. But they believe, and we believe with them, that that the match will be more robust, tighter, and more as a user if I'm presented with people who are also online at the same time. And so obviously the presence webhook makes that possible. So when I sign on, it sends a message to Shadi's system. Shadi says, okay, Ryan's online, these other people are online, let's connect these two people first. And of course, the impact of doing something like that is pretty clear. So the matches are more likely to connect and interact. The positive experience makes subscriptions more likely, so they are a subscription-driven business. It leads generally to a better customer experience and ultimately a better, more profitable app. And so Shadi some great growth over the last few months, and we're happy that we've been a part of that. Another effort or another scenario in which a customer might take advantage of webhooks is a national coffee chain that's seeking to roll out a new policy. So we've imagined a company called Best Roast. This is a fictional company, so don't go looking for it, but they're a national coffee chain. They started out, of course, like many do, as a mom and pop shop, just with just one location. But as they've grown, they've gotten much more sophisticated. They've got an employee-facing app in which employees can log their time for the day, request time off, view policies about benefits, health insurance, etc. And so it's a great way to communicate with employees. And of course, it has an in-app chat interface as well. And so Best Roast would like to roll out a new policy. They're going to have their mochas made with 3 pumps of syrup now instead of 5. And so they need to get this new policy change, new procedure out to their employees. And so they're going to use in-app chat to do that. And how can they do that really effectively to really help drive their business forward and make sure that the rollout is successful on the first hand, and then also be able to measure the impact of this change on the second hand, I guess. So the first thing they need to do is they need to know when an employee signs on to chat so they can send them the policy update. So they do that with the Presence webhook, of course. They'd also like to be able to track the new policy distribution. So they want to know not only that they've sent the message, but also that 50% of employees have seen it, 85, 95, 99% of employees have seen this message. So they can do that with the Receipts webhook. And of course, they can go one step further and not only see that employees have received it, but also that they've read the message. So you can do that with both our read receipts and received receipts webhooks. They can even go a step further and ask the employee to acknowledge receipt of the new policy, and the employee could reply using our smart replies, which is sort of a separate feature of CometChat that's not a webhook, but very handy in this instance. And then, of course, what they also want to do is understand the bottom line impact of the change. And so they'd integrate the data that they collect with from CometChat backend systems, their ERP systems. And the impact here, of course, is pretty clear. So a streamlined rollout. You can imagine that collecting all of this data about when customers or when employees knew of the change, and then when they acknowledged it and when they started acting on it is really powerful. They've got greater confidence in that their message was received and that the policy is being implemented. And finally, they have a really great understanding of business impact. So it's really just a more powerful run your business, collect data, and make sure that you're operating as you think you are. In this case, operating the pump policy change went into effect when you think it did. We've also got a customer here named SaleBirdie. SaleBirdie is a marketplace. You can imagine that they're sort of like Etsy. They connect independent crafters and makers with buyers, and they are facing a abandoned cart problem. So they're finding that customers join their site, peruse a bunch of goods, add a bunch of those goods to their cart, but then never complete the transaction, even after perhaps navigating to the checkout page. SaleBirdie recognizes that they can interact with their customers really well through in-app chat, and not just interact, but also solve those. I just got a note that my connection is interrupted, so hopefully you guys have heard what I've said. Anyway, SaleBirdie is looking to reduce the abandoned cart problem. And so they've got a few steps here that they need to do. So first of all, they need to know when someone's online or logs into their app, flips their app on their phone. So they do that with the Presence webhook. CometChat sends that presence to SaleBirdie, and SaleBirdie then runs a check for unpurchased items in that user's cart. In the event that there are unpurchased items there, SaleBirdie can send a prompt to users to purchase those items. They can just say, by the way, don't forget, you've got a new light fixture or some cool doodad in your cart. Perhaps you should buy that. They'll know that customer's online, of course, with the Presence webhook. They'll also know that person's received a message with their Receipts webhook. And in the event they can go, in the event that person does not take action and actually purchase the item, they can go a step further. Knowing that the person has seen and read the message, they can include a second prompt, and perhaps in that instance include some sort of purchase incentive, like a discount, or maybe they can sort of try to spur purchasing behavior in other ways, like by highlighting scarcity or the dwindling number of items available. So those are all possible thanks to the CometChat webhooks. And then, just as in the previous example, they could track the business impact of this greater outreach to customers with items in their cart that are not purchased by integrating with ERP systems. The impact's really clear here. So I think this undoubtedly leads to more completed transactions. It also leads over the longer term to improved purchasing data, which helps them further refine the customer personalization that they do, how they spur customer purchases, et cetera. So it's a really powerful system from that perspective. I'll hand it back to Scott to do a quick demo about how you might go about implementing Webhooks for your business.
Awesome. Thanks for all that info, Ryan. I hope that I've been able to control the volume a little bit more and my connection will stay strong while I go through the demo here. So let me go ahead and share my screen and get to the demo. All right. Hopefully you're able to see my screen. So what I'll be walking you through today is the way you configure webhooks and use webhooks in CometChat and how you might be able to use those in an application like Ryan was describing a moment ago. So the first thing is I'll show you, if you haven't seen before, the CometChat application dashboard. So you get a list of apps. Right now we're going to use the CometChat demo app. And so as you see, there's a lot of configuration you can do to make use of a lot of the features and functions of CometChat within your chat experience. And down here in extending the platform, not only do we have a bunch of extensions you can use, as we mentioned earlier, but we also have the webhooks, which you can configure. And so the webhook, as we mentioned, is connecting two systems together. And so if we look at this webhook here, the system that I'll be connecting to happens to be a webhook service that I've created, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And so you just point this at a URL at the remote system that you want to connect to. And then you select the triggers. As we mentioned, these events, this is an eventing system. And so these are the triggers, the events that occur within the CometChat platform that you can receive webhook events for. So the ones that we've talked about being new are present. So that's after connection status changed. That's the presence. We mentioned that we had the message webhooks already, after and before and after message. And then we've also added new webhooks for message delivery receipts and message read receipts. So you can obviously see the messages were sent with the before and after. You can see that they were delivered to a user and then that they've read them. So you get the full life cycle of sending and receiving messages, as well as users' presence. So I'm going to go ahead and configure all these to fire anytime a user logs in or logs off or adds a new device, anytime a message is sent, delivered, or read. So this is the configuration. Really, the simplest part, simplest thing about this, you just need a URL where the messages will be sent. You can also enable authentication. I didn't for this demo, but this is simple HTTP basic auth with a username and password. And so if you have an authenticated web service that you're calling, it will authenticate. So let me go ahead and show you. So that's just the example of configuring that. You can also add multiple webhooks. So if you wanted to add more than one webhook, so say you have two different pieces of code that handle those events differently, you can actually send, so I could add another one, webhook, and I could configure this one at any other arbitrary endpoint. So you can have more than one, and then this one could have just before messages, or if you're just interested in read receipts for that webhook. So maybe this webhook is the messages read webhook. So you can add multiple and have them targeted to very specific events that occur in CometChat. And so depending on the code that runs behind these webhook callbacks, you can enable specific triggers. You can also enable and disable these. So if you have something going wrong in your system and you want to stop the messages for a little bit, instead of deleting this, you can simply disable the webhook for that time. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate. Now that we've got this webhook configured, This is just a standard CometChat app, so we can look at users that are configured, if there's any groups, what roles there may be in the system. We've got a couple of extra roles. So this is just a sort of a standard CometChat app that someone's configured, and we've configured a webhook. Now, what I'll do is show you the other side of the webhook, and then we'll demonstrate it actually working. So now that you've got this configured, and you'd probably go about this in reverse order, just to be clear. You'd probably write all your code and get your service ready, or you'd have another service that someone else is providing for you. So it's a third-party partner or something like that that would already be available. But I'll show you here that I've just written some simple code. I've got a local database that's running. It happens to be MongoDB, but it could be any database, or you don't need a database. But for this demo, I'll just show you through a database. So basically, when we post a message to this webhook, we're going to get the payload out of that message, and I'll show you the payload here in a little bit. We get the payload out of that message, and then we're simply going to save it in a database. And then I'll show you in the database the data in just a little bit. So let's go ahead. Actually, what I'll do now is I'll just drop this collection so that it doesn't have any messages in it at all when we get started, so you'll see them much easier. All right, so the entire database basically is deleted at this point. So I am running this piece of code, which basically has a web endpoint, a post endpoint that it will receive messages on. And when those messages are received, it will save them into the database. And so this is representing the back-end aspect of the system that you're running. As Ryan was mentioning, this could be an ERP system. This could be the shopping cart system that he was talking about. I'm going to show you this very simply as just saving the data in a database, and we can look at the data. And this may actually be a use case that is valuable to some folks just getting started, where you want to save those presence webhook data into the database so that you can see the frequency with people logging in and logging off of the chat system related to your app. And so this is actually a viable use case. So let me get started by just simply, I've started this webhook actually already. So this is a running piece of code on my system here. I'll just show you here. So we're going to go ahead and start that app up. So this is an app running on your system anywhere. I'm running it locally here. And then just so that I can actually expose this to the outside world, I have this, it's called ngrok. It allows me to sort of poke a hole between my local computer and this network I'm on and the internet. You wouldn't need this in the case of running an enterprise application or an application you've deployed, or a partner's app. But as you saw, this was the URL I configured in my webhook. So this is the endpoint that it will call. And if you recall, I configured it to call the webhook endpoint specifically. So let me just go back over there real quick and show you that. This is the configuration here that we're looking at, which is this endpoint webhook. So that will call this code here. And we'll see that actually happen here in a moment. So now that I've got a running service to call, and I've got my webhook hooked up, let me just get rid of this for a moment. So now at this point, any calls between my actual chat application, user to user, etc., that trigger any of those events, after connection changed, after message, before message, read receipts, any of those will be delivered to my webhook. So let me just pull up this sample app, and I'll actually go back here and show you, oops, 1 second, to be able to go back. So let's just see, and I'll try to get this where we can see it at the same time, and then we can go look at the database. But you'll see here the HTTP request will come in to my webhook call once we do the login. So let me just, I'm probably going to need to refresh that. Sorry. 1 second. Yep. Okay. All right. So these are just some sample chat apps. So I can choose any of these. I'll just choose live events, and I'll choose to log in as James. So this is not a real working app. This is just to demonstrate what it might look like in a real presence of a real app. But this is chat. This is showing what a live event use case might look like. And so this would be the music lovers who are watching this live music show. and they want to chat. So any message they send will then be transmitted. And if we go look, you should be able to see that it transmits the webhook information through CometChat to my webhook. And then let's see here, we should actually start to see the messages are now flowing into, so you'll see a bunch of different messages here, and let's just dissect what we see. So we're going to see probably some of these first events are James, I actually disconnected as Patricia. Then I connect, there's another, Patricia came online. Let's just keep, and it shows what platform and device ID the user logged in from. Let me just go a little further down here and see if we can find, okay, so James coming online. So this was James coming online from the web app. And then James sent a message in the, excuse me here real quick. James sent a message in the Music Lovers channel. And the message was, this is a great show. And so this is an example of the webhook receiving the message sent event. And then if we look down here further, we'll have another event that says when it was sent, and this was actually the received payload. Let's see if we can find that real quick. So we have the receivers down here, so we can see that the folks who received it were the Music Lovers group. So that was the receiver of this message. So let's just see if we log James off real quick, which is simply just, if I go back here a little bit, we'll just go back in our app a little bit. I think basically we've logged James off now, and let's log on Robert. So now Robert logging on, and what we should see here in our database is that we will have actually a bunch more. Let me just refresh the data set. So now we have 8 events. So that was James going offline. And then let's see this one. This is Robert coming online. So as you can see, we have the presence webhook firing and the message delivered, received, sent, received, and delivered webhooks firing for each of these events. And so that was one use case, but I do have the same backing app configured for all of these different use cases. So it's basically supporting all the same kind of use case, but you can see if you had a standard chat situation where let's just choose Patricia again. Linda and Patricia are going to communicate. So it doesn't matter what what type of app experience you're providing. You can still, let's see, this is a great demo. You all feel that way. So in this case, it's a totally different experience that we're providing, but these webhooks can be used. As you can see there, we have a few more webhooks that got fired at that point, which are going to be the login and log out, and then the message sent and the message received. So this is a great way to orchestrate your backend systems in coordination with the chat. And so I hope that I'll just run through this really quickly one more time to make sure I cover all the sort of different parts we're talking about. And again, I'm just using MongoDB right now as a data store to store these events so that we can look at them, but it's not required. This could be any kind of a backend system. But so let me just really quickly go over. So we configured a webhook in CometChat to say, anytime any of these events in CometChat are fired, please send them to this remote location, wherever that may be, any third-party system, your own internal systems, whenever those events occur. So I have a little snippet of code, this little snippet of code, which is simply a running web app listening on a HTTP port that will then do whatever it would do. In this case, I'm just simply saving those. And so every time those fire, they get saved into our database, and we can take action on them, whether it's doing analytics, so I could do some aggregations on these and look at number of times that Patricia logged in today, things like that. Frequency of logins, how many devices were logged in from for these different users. And so every time our chat app in any type of experience, so it doesn't matter which type of experience you're providing, and there are countless more than these than we're demonstrating today. But any of those types of experiences, you get the same backend behavior of when a user logs in or logs out or logs in on another device, sends a message, receives a message, reads the message, you get a trigger on your backend system. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and see if we have any questions.
Thanks, Scott. I figured out how to unmute myself, and we do have a few questions. The first one's pretty straightforward. How to integrate chat in my web app build in MVC C#? Is that, can you untangle that for us? You're on mute now.
I've also found the mute button. It depends what song they're playing in the background, how distracting it is. So I've tried to mute to keep the distraction down. Sorry. So I think the question was, how do I integrate the webhooks into an MVC app written in C#? Is that what I heard?
Correct. Yep, that's what I interpret the question as well.
Yeah, so for the sake of, let's say the example, MVC meaning model view controller, I believe is what they're referring to, which is a common sort of three-tiered web app development or mobile app development model. And so really what we would be talking about in this case is when you receive those webhooks, you can use a trigger from the webhook in your own system. So you've received the webhook. Now use a event in your own system to trigger the update of the view. So you can update the user's view to include whatever information is. We have customers who are simply using this presence webhook to tie their presence globally with their sort of global user. So say you have an app, this MVC app written in C#, where the user is logged into the app. They're on the shopping website or whatever the app is. And there's a presence that they are logged in to. I hope you can still hear me. I got a bandwidth notice, but that the user is online on the app, but they may not be online on chat. Depending on how your architecture is, you may not have chat enabled for users at all times. And so our customers use this presence webhook to actually signal to their other presence engine that the user is actually online on chat. So they may have like a green with a plus for chat. So it's a green dot on their avatar that shows that they're online, and then a green plus that shows that they're available for chat, something like that. Or if we've seen sort of the green online with the chat bubble also near the green indicator of online that shows not only they're online, but they're also online and available for chat. And so that allows you to orchestrate presence across both the chat system as well as your regular system. So if you have a business process system like HR or finance systems where users are doing behaviors in the system like processing invoices or doing reviews or managing onboarding, and you want to be able to do things when they're online, like send them an invoice to process, right? So make sure that this is a proper invoice and send it out to the customer. You might do that with them online with the system. If you wanted to talk with them about the invoice, before you go over to the chat system and then scroll through all the users and say, oh, they're not online, you can quickly see in the base system, not the chat system, but the actual business system, that the user is online for chat. So it really integrates the chat experience with the base app experience. So I hope that made sense, Ryan.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, okay. Your video was disabled for me, so I wasn't sure you were still there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful. Two more questions, actually. Are webhooks included in every plan? And the second part of that same question is there some upper utilization limit with webhooks?
Yeah, so if you actually go to our pricing page, and I can share that here in a second, you'll be able to see the plans that include webhooks. And I believe if we look here, to take advantage of webhooks requires the Pro plan. I believe let me just check here and make sure got that right. Yeah, so to take advantage of webhooks, you've got to be on the Pro plan.
Cool. And is there an upper
utilization
limit with webhooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like what is there a capacity constraint or utilization limits for using webhooks?
So the webhooks follow the same constraints as our message system in general, and so there are various sort of, if you will, constraints on the rate limiting and whatnot. So webhooks follow the same constraints. There are only 25 webhooks per app. So as you saw there, I had one webhook that could deal with all the messages. So you could always send all those messages to one webhook. So you don't need even 25. But if you wanted to deal with certain of those messages with different webhooks, maybe you want multiple webhooks to receive the presence events, you can do up to 25 webhooks in one app. The URL has be less than 256 characters. But otherwise, all of the limits in terms of scaling the webhooks calls out themselves are bound by actually all the other constraints in the system, like how many messages can you send, how many users can you have online at one time, etc. So the sort of scale of the function of the webhooks is more constrained by the basic CometChat functions of the system and those triggers.
Great, really good. Can you tell me more about how webhooks? This is another question. Sorry. Tell me more about how webhooks are integrated in your extensions. So profanity filters, moderation, data masking, etc., all seem to make use of some subset of webhooks. Is that an out-of-box solution? Is the integration or implementation of those webhooks different than the one you just demonstrated?
Yeah, so we do the webhooks that we talk about for extensions are the same exact architecture as the webhooks that we provide to our customers, and so there's no difference between them. We do run sort of a private set of infrastructure so we can maintain the scalability and performance whatnot of our extensions, separate from our end user customer webhooks. But the architecture, infrastructure, technology, scheme, that's the exact same thing I just showed. And so we run applications basically that are the code that I was showing you that saved it to the database. We run applications that are like that code that do something, whatever it might be. So let's take push notifications, for example. Those take advantage of the before and after message webhooks to receive a message and say, okay, this message is for a specific user, a specific app. What do I do with it? I need to send a notification to this user because they have not read this message yet. So I will send a push notification out to that user. So we use the before and after message. Before messages specifically are used for most of the moderation, profanity filtering, data masking, use our before message webhooks. Most of the notification infrastructure like email, SMS, and push notifications use the after message webhooks. And so we take extensive advantage of the webhooks to build out our extensions platform as well. I think that answered your question.
Good. That does actually. That was a great answer. Thank you for that. I've got more questions here, but we're at time. So let's wrap it up here. Those that did not get an answer to their question, we will follow up individually with you. Anything to add, Scott? Wrap it up here.
No, just encourage people to go take advantage of webhooks to improve the experience for your users by integrating their chat experience with your native app experience. And so, yeah, go see what you can build with webhooks.
And our docs are probably the best place to go to learn more. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for your time. This has been really fun. Hopefully you got what you intended to get out of it. And we will follow up with those of you who attended. Hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks a lot, Ryan, for hosting.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.